Yo, what is up, YouTubers? We are, boy, that's real good in your coffee. If you want some cream and sugar in your coffee, we did that. That's some good dried out stuff. I had to go through some preps because some of that stuff's getting pretty old. But see this here? It don't stay good as long as sugar. But if you're trying to do the keto thing, that stuff really helps. It's a lot sweeter than sugar. You got to try this. Put that in your taco meat instead of taco seasoning. Just, that, and that. And I put the Lowry seasoning and the ground turmeric. That turmeric stuff, boys, I'm gonna tell you right now that turmeric, I mean, it's good stuff. A little funny because it's kind of yellow. You know what I mean? It's yellow, so I think you're yellow. So like your day after effects, it might make your food a little bit. Once you heat it up, it don't look like that. And I do all my. I should be using wax paper when I'm at the house instead of the Ziplocs, but I use Ziplocs quite a bit. You want your food to be completely cooled off, of course, and then you get 75 Ziploc bags for $4, and then these are real good too. So you can make that meat right there for your tacos. That's 2 pounds of cow from the yard. So that's never been to a real butcher. That's self-processed. And then these are from the store. That's about the best you can get from the store. So it was real good. Anyway, you have your taco meat for your dinner. And then you can do the, after that. Little old dog, you want to go outside? Come on, let's go out to the side. Come on, let's go out to the side. Let's go out to the side, to the side, to the side. Going outside. Out to the side. Oh, no, they want to come in. Okay, so we have a jungle. They called it the stupid truck is ready, so gotta go to work. So I went and got the rental. But there's the horses down there. I should walk down there. They got their new gate up, and they got the night with the jousting thing. Those are the horses for that medieval times thing. You can see there's their stables and stuff over there. Those tan buildings. It's up here close. That's the neighbor's goat and everything, and that's all their yard and stuff. Anyway, the neighbor's front yard is that's where there's a couple of cows. We got coos on the grind. Oh, there he goes right in. You see him? See it, Lillian? I messed it up. See if we can catch him. There he goes. He is frolicking. Oh, a horse is a horse, of course, of course. A horse is a horse, of course. So that's real good. But we got this jungle going on over here. We're going to make this goat food. So it is time. We got the greenhouse it is inoperable. It needs to be a cooling house here in about 2 months. But yeah, we're going to release the goats. We have figured out that we are not really farmers. We are more of eat the cow kind of folks around here. And I got 2 neighbors on the cow situation. So that's real good, you know what I mean? So, because I'm never here, right? And so we got that going on. And then, I can come in, I can process a cow in a day. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot to process a cow. And then a lot of people like their, see, I do stuff different. We used to catch snakes and skin them and everything. Here's this meat. Look at this meat right here. So we used to catch them snakes, and if they were the right kind, if they were venomous, we'd sell them to to the guy that took it down there to the, we was out there in Pegs, so it was real far. We was just kids. So we'd sell the live copperheads and rattlers. Found a lot more copperheads. And sometimes they'll intermix, so that's weird. But we take them snakes down there live, and they'll milk them, make an anti-venom. So I've been catching them snakes probably. I don't even think I'd try to catch one. Well, I probably would, but you know, it's been years ago. You know, I was just a kid back then. Very where the red fur grows type of deal. Okay, so we would skin the snakes and we'd use salt and alum is a deal. And we'd stretch them out and everything, and then we'd sell them to the Indians. They make hat bands. Never seen any boots made out of them, but a lot of them down there at that Blackbird Saloon, they'd have them old drinking hats. I call it. It's like a cowboy hat, but it's kind of got one of them deals. Look at it. Look at the deal my wife. But look at how good that is. I mean, just decorate to beat the band. You know what I'm saying? Look at that. I got a real good wife. Oh. But with a quiet before the. Got to go pick him up and everything. So I'm leaving that. So we're gonna get. I spoke for a nanny and two, but they're still on the bottle. So that nanny, that'll get us some fresh squeeze and for milk, and she's still producing and everything. And then that'll be our weed eater for the summer. So we're gonna put the nanny and the two in the corral out there, which I probably need to be out there working on that right now, but I'm supposed to be asleep because I have to drive all night. Anyways, so I'm watching this deal about the rapture and all this kind of stuff, and then I see the 1-star general describing how the internet and services are all compromised, and when China goes to take over Taiwan, the first indicator is our power grid going down. So I'm like, well, maybe I need some more capabilities around here, blah, blah, this and that. Put the pause on that because the wife was taking me to pick up the rental, and the alarm goes off. Got alarm 11:48. The alarm goes off twice, and then the phone actually says it's time to get up and sing to the Lord, right? So I asked her, I said, what do you want to sing? And she said, The Great I Am. So we fired it up on the YouTubes, and we sang The Great I Am. And I kept having I sang every word, but my thought process was still in anxiety, I guess you'd say. And these various situations was coming up. And right when it got to thinking about the power grid going down and not having no gas pumps, no electric to keep the refrigerator going, stuff like that. Which all that malware's in all your solar panel stuff too. So, I mean, going and getting your off-grid stuff. I got a brand new generator, 2011, and it's still in the box. I've never opened it because I don't want any influence until the second grid down. I'm saving it. I got the new carburetor kit, so I can change the diaphragm and everything. But when the grid goes down, I got a modern way to keep it going, and then I got my solar panel and backup battery thing, and I'm figuring they'll hit us again after that, and then I'll break out the Briggs and Stratton and get her done son, you know what I mean? And so that's like the prepper stuff that's been put in place years ago, and we're in full harvest season, I believe, and that's the main goal. But we're listening to that, and we're singing. Me and her, we're in the Subaru, and she is singing too. And right when I thought about the grid down, it was right where the song said, "The demons run and flee." You know what I mean? And then another anxiety. No, it wasn't. It's a different one hit right there. But then it's with the grid down. It talked about the power and the presence of the great I am. You know what I mean? And something in that just really clicked. I mean, you talk about, because I'm right now. I'm on the verge. You know what I'm saying? So we got the farm, and then we got tick or two here, and then or tick or two, and then we're here at Unit T. Okay, so the thought process was, you know what I mean? Just go ahead and bounce. You know what I mean? Forget the trucking, and you look on there, and everybody's saying the trucking's going down, going down, going down. Guy calls me this morning. He's putting $6,000 into his truck. New clutch, and he's going to replace that rear main seal while he's got it apart, just because they go out and everything. And he said the cheapest load he's hauled is $3.14 a mile, and they're booming. He's pulling out of Kansas City up there, and they just redid the whole front end on my truck, or the one I drive. It ain't mine, but they just redid the whole front end on that thing. New tires all the way around it, and they just replaced the entire wiring harness. New alternator, new batteries in this 2022 Kenworth T680. I said, why in the world are you putting all that money in that truck or whatever else like that? He said, we know what it is. And we know where these parts come from. These parts are all coming from another truck that they already had. So they got no money in this. They got mechanics on duty that are working for, $50 an hour. They already own a shop. So take a week off, let this thing get done or whatever. I'm not fussy. I've seen the kinfolk and all that kind of stuff. Go back. I'll run the freight so somebody else can pause, because the DOT week's coming up, right? So everybody wants to take off on DOT week. So the money's good. So I'll make the same money regardless, but the company will double revenue this upcoming week, right? And I sent a video talking about opportunity to some people, and I've seen them make mention, not directly to me, but on the platform, on the tubes, and they seem to kind of frown at the idea, because they're looking at the indicators of these companies that are going out of business. But if you look at the load numbers, and then you look at how many people are going out of business, how many MC numbers are starting up. Okay, so you got to remember, a lot of owner operators parked their truck and went to work for somebody else during these bad seasons. Okay, so you don't want your truck. You don't wear your equipment out on bad freight. So you winterize, right? You get it all winterized, and then you let her set, and then you go drive for somebody else. Okay, and then you keep their stuff going. Blah blah blah. Work like a company man. Pause your authority and the insurance and all that. And then once you've done that, you can just coast. You just like W-2. You know what I mean? Take care of your taxes, stuff like that. Blah blah. Unless you're attached to a farm. If your equipment's attached to a farm, you can still pause your authority for freight or whatever else like that. But you can still continue to use, like say you got a hopper bottom trailer, and you can come in and run a few loads here and there if that W-2 job ain't quite scratching the itch. You know what I mean? You got a little bit. If you got too much money at the end of the month, or too much month at the end of the money, you broke. You go, pull a couple loads for a farmer over the weekend while you're doing your 34, and just paper log it. You know what I mean? And you're all good. You get back on track. Keep the farm afloat. You know what I mean? Go buy some seed. Go buy some cows, whatever like that. You know what I mean? So you need more money this time of year, and sometimes you don't want to go to the bank. So you either have it saved up or you don't, type of deal, and then you can go earn it. Me, I'm terrible. Like, I have the worst. Maybe I ought to quit rocking since I'm making a video. Anyways. So the location of Unimex is on the Mexican border, and they have all this warehousing, and they have the border sewed up. Like, as far as like coming across, what's coming across, You know what I mean? In and out, right? And then they are affiliated, heavily affiliated with the state of Texas. So like, Lupini and them, like they put out uh, on average, I'd say 3 notices of, don't stop at these certain places or whatever, and uh, other stuff about some internal things where they check the drivers, right? So like if you take off with the load, high security load, every American driver knows, high security load, you run 150 miles without stopping. You have to have a certain amount of fuel when you pick up the load, and when you take off driving, you got to watch for people following you. Blah blah blah. Well, these thieves and cartels are more sophisticated nowadays. So the driver 9 times out of 10 has paperwork that just has a number talking about product or whatever. Well, we don't do that. Like, we know what the product is. We got the product number. We got the driver knows exactly what's going on. And the safety people are like, if you stop before you cross that checkpoint or whatever else like that, they will search your truck. Like, they're affiliated with Border Patrol. They're affiliated with the state of Texas in some levels of security that I can't, operational security, you don't want to say that kind of stuff. I know that I am not moving freight that is compromised or whatever kind of contraband type stuff. And the people that they bring in when they hire somebody or whatever else like that, they have ways of going about stuff to vet the driver, and so that's really good. Like, I was super encouraged when I found out some things, and I was there for a while when I realized what's up, and because you get nervous. You go down there on the border, right? And it's just like, okay, yeah, okay, go over here and pick up this trailer that's already sealed, take it somewhere else. And then, you drop the trailer, they hook onto it, go somewhere, cut the seal off. And it's just like, did I just do something bad? You know what I mean? Well, I know I'm not, is the key. You know what I mean? I am very paranoid because I've been to prison. I ain't going back. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, no. Anyway, so where I'm at, if I had 7 drivers, I would sell this house right now and get the drivers. It's back to where I'm at. I would leverage the home my wife dearly loves. You know what I'm saying? And I would go down there. I talked to them everything. They said that I already qualified, uh, so I could take them as lease as I get the drivers, and have the trucks delivered to Unimax. Unimax do all the insurance, base plate, blah blah blah, 80-20 split, and I just need to stand up an LLC and put my name and collateral behind it. And then as I find driver, I'll take a truck, and then find another driver, and I can take receipt of another truck and grow it that away at whatever pace. You know what I mean? And as far as the freight goes, dude, they just like totally outed China. So like we got China and we got Mexico making all our stuff. You know what I mean? And then like we're kind of like arguing with cartels, and then we're kind of like tariffing the shit out of China. You know what I mean? For some, let's manufacture in America, but it takes a while to build that capability, right? But what people don't see is this is why I know it's a uniparty with the government. It's 2 wings off of one bird type of deal. Can you do? I do what to do with my hands. 2 wings off of one bird. Anyway, so they're outing the foreign drivers for OPSEC for the potential war in 2026. Okay, so we can't trust our supply chain to what I mean, certain individuals, and a very easy overt way to take them out of the situation is to require the law that's already on the books talking about speak English. It was in 1938 the law went on the books that to drive and do commerce via semi truck, you had to be able to speak English. And that makes sense because you want to read the sign and read the BOL. Like You wreck one of these hazmat trucks out here, and the fire department shows up, and you can't tell them what's in that trailer. You know what I'm saying? They don't know where. You go catch that kitchen on fire in there with a pot full of oil and spray it with the water hose and see what happens. The whole kitchen catch on fire. You know what I mean? But if you just put the lid on the pan, take away the oxygen, the oil fire goes out. You know what I mean? So, what's that joke about? There was an oil well on fire, and it was burning real bad. And they called one place after another. This outfit tried, this department tried, or whatever. Finally, they called these old boys from out east of Tulsa. Said, "Hey, we heard you could put out oil well fire. We got a bad one over here." He said, "Oh yeah, we can put out anything. We'll get her done." You know what I mean? So they take off everything. They go down there. They're just to get it down through there, and come over the hill or whatever. And they just blow. There's reporters and TV cameras, and everybody's standing back. They're filming this oil well just billowing all this fire. Here comes this old, probably 1975 fire truck, and it just zooms right past through the crowd and everything, just kicking up dust and everything. And there's firefighters hanging on the back of it and everything. A bunch of hillbillies. Some Oklahoma boys. They just blow right through the fence and just go up there, and it just hits that deal and plops right up on top of that. You know what I mean? Right on top of that fire, just caps off the wellhead, and fire goes out. And they jump out there. They start stomping around and everything, putting out fire and everything. About 12 of them just pop out of this thing, and they're just doing everything they can to put the fire out. Spraying foam and everything, and they just going crazy like a bunch of ants at an anthill. About 10 or 20 minutes goes by or whatever, and they got it all out, and everything's fine or whatever. They're over there, they're sitting down, they're drinking some water, and everybody's wiping their head. They got their heads down and stuff. They're all catching their breath. And that reporter goes over there to the chief. He goes over, and he says, "Oh, there was a reward, $2 million. Anybody put this fire out." I guess that's pertinent to the joke. So the CBS News reporter goes over and says, Sir, what are you going to do with the $2 million? He just takes a big old drink and everything. He wipes his head. He looks at it. He says, "The first thing we're going to do is fix the brakes on the truck." Oh, man. I'm not sure what we're going to do with all of it, but the first thing is we're going to fix the brakes on the truck. Anyway, that's just a little jokey joke. Joy of the Lord is our strength. And I had made a video here a while back about, I said God will test you. He's like, he puts you in the fire or whatever, you just burn, you know what I mean? Like gold, and you melt. And then God just takes the dregs off the top. It's a refining process, right? I did not know that that's what joy was, but I watched a man on a video, and he was describing that. And that was real cool because, he reads a lot, you know what I mean? I don't read a lot. I just had a lot of time to read, but I'm a quick read, you know what I'm saying? And then, I have a ability to understand the gist of things. And then, I'm kind of cheating because I got the Holy Ghost, you know what I mean? So he shows me stuff. Anyway, or I'm crazy, one of the two. Let's be right too many times to attribute to crazy. Anyway, so it is peculiar, very peculiar. Anyway, so I was watching that deal. He was talking about, he did a word study on joy, and he was talking about how that word in the Hebrew was more like the refining process, where you heat up metal and remove the dregs. Like gold, for instance, to refine gold, you heat it up in a crucible and pull the dregs off the top. And you do that repeatedly until you have pure gold. So that explains a lot of struggle, you know what I mean? And we learned by struggle, don't get me wrong. Well, I just look fat as can be. Look how fat I look. I'm sitting in that truck all the time. I'm sitting up straight like this. You know what I mean? I'm sitting up straight, you know what I mean? And then sometimes I'll be leaning forward like this. Watch your Donald Trump. He lean forward. Look. Boy, I'm in shape, ain't it? You know what I mean? Then look at this. Well, I'm just fatter than a tick. You know what I'm saying? So, to you internet fellas out there, Make sure you lean forward when you're on camera. Anyway, uh, this gas tank on a gospel machine right here, boys. Anyway, so I made my last video about do not forsake the assembly. Seen another guy talking about uh this dude said, what's your advice? I'm moving to the West Coast, single 31, blah blah blah, this and that. Some kind of web dude or whatever like that. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, he's moving to San Francisco. I'm thinking about the dude that, says be celibate until you get married and everything, and then like watch out for the girls because they'll get you or whatever. And then he said something about if you just couldn't stand it, just go ahead and get a prostitute. And I said, man, that is a terrible thing to tell somebody. And Proverbs, it says the woman called out to oh, come on in, let's get it on or whatever. It says, little did he know it would cost him his life. You know what I mean? So, like, anybody watching this out there, don't tell anybody to get a prostitute. You know what I mean? Like, don't get a prostitute, man. For real. Like, I don't do the prostitute thing the way most people do. But this is the reason why I bring this up, because it was kind of catchy the way it all tied together. I left that church. The last video I made, I left that church, and I was driving and everything, and I just got this urge, you know what I mean, to go to Tulsa. And I'm already down by like Wainwright or whatever, so I just cut through and I go all the way up and everything. So I get to Tulsa, it's like midnight or whatever. And I've been doing some deals with some cars or whatever like that, and there's no inventory for a used car. You can't get it. It's $3,500 to $5,000 down in Texas to get started on a car, and $500 down in Oklahoma. But you got to do your own tags, so you got to pay the tax and everything on top of that. But you got some wiggle room and time to do that. And if you buy it as a dealer situation or whatever else like that, in this case, it would be me making purchases to equip the then they would be responsible for the payments or whatever else like that. But the upcoming situation, there would be more mobility if there in the age of the car meant that it wasn't exactly the cars don't spy on you if they're older, right? So if you want some capabilities and some anonymous and some so the Skipopotamus anonymous vehicle system. Anyway, so I went up there, and there's a lot of cheap cars in Tulsa and stuff, and it was so late that I was able to drive real slow past, because there's no traffic out, right? Well, I'm driving, I'm going back and forth or whatever, and then I remembered before that I had done some witnessing up there and some reaching out, some community action type stuff. Anyway, so they didn't dawn on me at first, so I'm looking at the cars and everything, and I knew there was a road that had a bunch of cars. I can't remember which one it was. And so I knew it was 11th Street. Turns out 31st and Garnett. Like running up Garnett, there's two spots on Garnett. Really good. They had a Tahoe, a 95 Tahoe, million miles or whatever. Like, I'm sure it would need work or whatever like that. Dude, it's $300 down and a $1,500 payoff. Start driving off the lot. If you can start drive off the lot in a Chevy Tahoe with $300 down and a payout of $1,500, you're under $2,000 in a vehicle. And if you drive that vehicle off that lot, and that sucker's older than 95, if you disappear into the woods, that is a vehicle that has disappeared into the woods. If there's no reason for that dealer to call the cops on you, nobody knows you have that vehicle. You pay cash money, you have a Tahoe in the woods. Okay, so Skipopotamus Anonymous, tip number 2. Okay, so I was looking, and I started seeing all these people whatever like that. And then, one lady like didn't have a leg, and then there's like these randos, and then there's like some pink hairs or whatever. Anyway, so I'm at the thing. I went to where when I got these glasses was up there on Admiral, and that's where I bought the motorcycle too. Bought the motorcycle, waiting for the glasses to be made, Anyway, and there's a spot you can park truck there, a big parking lot, so you can't park over at the Fly J because it's full. But from right there over to the Fly J, it's like the 7 miles of hell. You know what I mean? About 2 miles wide, about 7 miles long. Just, I mean, every type of zombie you can imagine, and all the horrifics that go with it. And anyway, so I pulled up to a Taco Bell or whatever like that. So I grabbed this. Uh, they had a box for 5, 7, and 9, and the 7 had a chicken chalupa in there, which is kind of like an Indian taco. So I was like, yeah, give me one of them. It was cold, and I said, give me one of them and a Pepsi with no ice. So I get up there, I get the stuff, I tell the kid a Jesus joke, I take off, right? So I'm just driving until I see somebody, pull up on them. I'm like, hey, you hungry? Whatever like that. Oh, first I'd witnessed to the people at the bus stop. And right when I walked up there, the dude's like, I got like 300 out, right, in 20s. So I go up to the thing, and there's like 3 or 4 of them there. And I'm talking to this guy, I say, hey, man, have you had anything to eat? He said, man, I sure could use a cup of coffee. And he was a good dude, looked like a Vietnam vet type of guy. But anyway, uh, kind of limping and just trying to get by, living outside. And the other guy, and he was kind of fat. He looked like he was too put together to have been there very long. We'll just say it like that. And he said, "Man, you wouldn't have to have $20 to get a room, would you?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I can do that." And I had that dude $20, and he's just like, he didn't say that. He's like, he just kind of paused or whatever, and his woman or whatever was sitting on the ground there on a little mat. And I said, "Have y'all have anything to eat?" She's just, these hot dogs taste like crap, blah blah. Anyway, so made that dude walk in there, the vet looking guy, get him a cup of coffee, and uh, I got one of them cheeseburgers, whatever else like that. I had him heat that up, and I looked over there, and they had these little carrot cakes, right? So I get that carrot cake and that cheeseburger and coffee. It was $5, man. I was like, wow, this is really cheap. I'm used to truck stop prices. Yeah, that costs $20 truck stop. Anyway, so that guy was taking forever, so I just walked out there, and there's old fat boy and his woman out there, and I walked up to him. Oh, and while we were in the store, he said, "Man, that guy was talking about how he was $20 short for getting a hotel room for the week, and he was in town for work, blah blah, this and that, and everything, having the hard times, and he was $20 short of having enough, and he had just said that, and he was like." I don't know if he prayed or just mentioned it or what, but apparently that's while I was walking up there. And then, so that's why the dude paused. He's like, "Man, God help me with $20 or whatever like that." And I'm just like, "Hey, y'all eat?" He's like, "Can I get $20?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that." Give him $20. He's just like dumbfounded. You know what I mean? And God bless. I love doing that, and I wanted to tie to the church out there that I had went to, but it's like I wasn't supposed to. You know what I mean? And the other ATM was 6.75% just for pulling money out. And then like my phone rang, but it was turned off. You know what I mean? I'm just like, yeah, like I ain't supposed to do this. And I like swiped the card 3 times trying to get it to work. So that guy standing there or whatever else like that, he's the fat guy that had prayed or whatever or said something right before I showed up. That guy, I walked back out there. He was standing there. He said, "Man, I appreciate that." I was like, "Yeah, man, no problem. Anything to help or whatever like that." And I took that carrot cake. I said, "Ma'am," I said, "Here you go. This get taste out of your mouth." Whatever like that. No, I said, "Hey, you want some cake?" And she looked at me and she was kind of like, I guess they have code words for, you know, debauchery to whatever degree. I don't know what cake stands for, but this lady looked at me like, "You son of a bitch," and I gave her that carrot cake. I said, "Here you go. I'll get to taste that dirty hot dog out of your mouth, whatever." Yeah, because she's complaining about the hot dogs. And which, looking back, that may not have been the best thing to say. Anyway, so I left from there, and I just felt good. I just felt so good. I was just like, you know what? That's why I was here or whatever. And so I was driving around after that because I had a couple more spots I was looking. And it just hits me, It's like, what does every man want at 3 o'clock in the morning? Tacos, man. Everybody wants some tacos, right? So it's like, if I'm laying out here on the concrete, I got one leg or I'm, broke and effed up in the game to whatever degree, a taco sounds great. So I start driving around or whatever, and I'm just pulling 20s out and paying this $7. So I go through the drive-through, and then like right when I'm leaving, I hit this dude with another Jesus one-liner and take off. And I come by the third, and this dude, you could tell he had been to church or whatever, but he was like backsliding or whatever, and he's probably 20 at the most, and just on it in a bad place. You know what I mean? So it's like the chances of this guy falling off into debauchery was significant, right? So I'm sitting there shooting the breeze with this old boy, and every time I go through the thing or whatever, about the third or fourth time, he's like, "Man, what are you doing, dude?" I was like, "Well, you know how that Bible says, be a fisher of men." I said, "Well, you can't just throw your hook out there with no bait." And he's like, "You're giving people this food." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I just keep rolling up on people like, hey, man, you hungry or whatever else like that." They'll just talk to him about Jesus, and 9 times out of 10, uh, probably 7 times out of 10, what they're actually hungry for just somebody just to act like they give a shit and a little bit of conversation. You know what I mean? And it's hard for me to come up with words to say. that video I was watching where the guy talked about what joy meant, he said something about God put us here for these times or whatever. I'll tell you, if a homeless person needs a taco at 3 o'clock in the morning and somebody to cheer him up and shoot the shit for a while, I'm your guy. You know what I'm saying? And anyway, so I just keep circling through this thing, circling. Finally, I remembered when I had turned around one time, it was way yonder, and I'd asked at the thing about the car lot roads, and hell, I knew more about the car lots than that guy did. He lived there. Anyway, when I pulled up to that thing, I see that lady walk over there and go into this little section. Okay, well, I've been through there several times. I coughed up 20. I just keep putting the 2 5s and the change in my console. Well, I go down there, and this guy's uh oh, I leave out of there and I go all the way down there. It's about, I don't know, pretty good ways, and then I turned left, and I had to go through the thing and then turn left again. So as I turned left, I could see where that lady had went, and there was probably 7 dudes. You know what I mean? And they got their little hut thing going on or whatever. You can tell that some of them are sitting there, and then some of them are kind of like covered up type of deal. So they were up to something. They're probably cooking dope or something like that. I don't know. They were up to no good, and it was a gag. Obviously, we'll say that. And so I loop around. I drive right back past them again like that, and I go to the next driveway, and I pull up, and I pull just past the corner so they can't get a good look at the truck, right? And I turn it off and everything like that. And I grab that box of tacos, that $7 box, and that Pepsi. And I just go walking around there or whatever like that. And I said, I walk around there. I said, where's that lady that was over here about 2 hours ago? I see that lady over there. I said, I'm up here from Texas or whatever. I said, I've done a lot today. I said, but I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to give her this box of tacos. And there's a young black feller, a white girl, looked like she was way out of place. Like she didn't have no piercings on her face, no tattoos or nothing. Dude looked like he was straight gang affiliated. And then here's an older dude over here, and this dude was like he had multiple chains and stuff like that. Obviously the leader. And I start talking about Jesus or whatever else like that. I'm like, all sin is against God. I said, we don't sin against each other. You know what I mean? Like the sin is against God. All sin is against God. First and foremost, David said, he said, he had Uriah the Hittite killed, and then fornicated with his wife, and then the baby was born and died and everything else like that. And he repented, and he said, God, against you and you alone have I sinned. I said, that's what I realized, sin's against God, and then, Jesus died for us to get us in a place where we could get right, and, we shouldn't kill, steal, murder, lie, and all this kind of stuff and everything. I said quite a bit. And this dude's just like, I mean, it's really settling in on him. That leader guy, he was really, yeah. Anyway, oh, I handed them talkers wherever this guy right here, wherever else like that. I said, here, you go ahead and just hang on to this, and I handed him a Pepsi, right? And which that also gets their hands full so you can see what they're holding, right? You know what I'm saying? And then as I'm talking to this guy, and I'm going back and forth, and I'm making eye contact, talking and everything. Well, this guy here, over here, like it, I'm watching him, and he's looking me up and down. You know what I mean? He's about to do something like that, and he says, "Won't you let me hold something or whatever?" I said, "Hold something." I said, "Hell, I let you hold that Pepsi, didn't I?" You know what I mean? I was, and I said what I had to say. I was like, "All right." I said, "Y'all stay out of trouble. You know, you don't want to catch on fire." You know what I mean? And I walked back over and got in the truck or whatever else like that. And yeah, so that was one of them deals where like, oh, I forgot. Sorry about the rocking. Anyway, so that's the way that went down, and that was pretty cool. And I went back over to the Flying J and got me a shower, took a nap, and drove down here. So that's what's been going on, you know. And got the call today, the truck's fixed and all that. And, you know, we got date night tonight. We are celebrating the goodness. There's a spot in Denton, Texas. It's called Hannah's on the Square. And the reservations are made, and we are going to eat like the fancy folk tonight. And celebrate Mother's Day, anniversary, birthdays, all that type of stuff. This is going to be one of them special days. So in trucking, you do not get to be there on her birthday or Mother's Day or when someone graduates. You just celebrate when you get a chance and say, this is for that. You know what I mean? So, you know, make hay while the sun's shining, right? So that's what we're doing. And here's a bonus. If your summer birthday and your spouse is a winter birthday, you can switch. You can switch. Okay, so my wife was born in February, so I gave her my birthday. So it's my birthday this month. So we are celebrating my birthday. Sounds a little crazy, because I am. But I gave my wife my birthday because it corresponds with like Memorial Day and stuff. So all growing up and stuff like that, like you'd have like your Founders Day stuff, your, you know, small town get together where they got the cool cars out, Indian tacos and cotton candy. Occasional like gypsies would come through with a, you know, origami trailer slash, you know, amusement device. Uh, so that always happened right around my birthday. I was like, man, this is cool. You know, when I turned 21, I was in Stillwell and they had the Strawberry Festival. And they were out there, you know, pouring bleach on the road and doing burnouts and, you know, everything like that. I didn't even drink beer. I was like, I don't even care now. You know, before that, I felt like I was getting away with something. So the drinking when I was underage, it was more about the fact I was getting away with something. Like it had that thrill to it. You know, that's what I liked about it. And then on my 21st birthday, I didn't drink a single beer because I was just like, yeah. Anyway, uh, my wife never got that. Her birthday's in February and it's like super cold, and then like right after that's Valentine's Day. So every birthday she had single, it's like, oh, it's so cold, I don't get to do that. And then it's like, oh, I don't have a man or whatever, which is a big deal for a chick apparently. And so I gave her my birthday. So she gets a birthday in February and a birthday in May now. You know, so that's what we do, and that's today. Anyway, be of good cheer. You know what I mean? With all, there ain't nothing changed. You guys need to understand this. You need to understand this is something God gave me today. Probably because He knows I would share it with you guys or whatever. I'm sure it's all about y'all. He loves me too. Don't get me wrong. You know, I acknowledge that, but you know, I'm just the water hose, man. I'm trying to get the kinks out. You know what I'm saying? I heard a guy talking about a pipe for God to flow through, and I thought maybe I should upgrade from the hose to the pipe. But the repentance level, you got to get the kinks out. You don't want to be kinky when you're delivering the word of God at any degree whatsoever. I'm telling you right now, if the servant that don't know gets beat and the servant that knows gets beat severely, I'm telling you, when the master comes home, when Jesus comes back, whatever like that, whether we float off in the sky before, after, during tribulation, tribulation versus wrath, I don't care. I'm going to be ready today. If Jesus comes back today, if I just keel over dead, and Judgment Day is for me because today's the day I die, I want to be ready. I want to stay ready. I want to be speaking praise. I want to be quoting the Bible in every situation. I just went and picked up this minivan. My thing canceled. I ain't never had a rental place call me back and say, hey, your stuff's canceled or wherever else like that. So I had to go to the other one. I get to the other one, and here's this young lady. She's probably, I'd say 20 at the most. And she's picking up a rental or whatever like that. And she's going to Oklahoma City. And I'm just like, I said something about being from Sanger. She's like, oh, I'm from Sanger or whatever like that. I said, oh, yeah. And I told her about the creeks. I told her about that movie Where the Red Fern Grows. Told her to check that out. She's really excited about it and everything like that. And I would not have had that witness. And I told her about setting the alarm and how it gave me confirmation today. And I told her, you need to read that Bible a little bit every day. And one of the things I ask is, when's the last time you had a pizza? You know what I mean? And then let's role play for a second. Bonus tip, witness time. Okay, so random at the coffee pot or anywhere you meet a random person you don't know. Hey, when's the last time you ate a pizza? They'll say something or another. So do you expect, if they say it's today, say, do you expect that pizza to keep you fed next week? Or if they say it's been a while, say, well, do you expect that pizza to keep you fed today? And whatever they say, just be like, okay, well, that's about like reading the Bible. Like you can't read the Bible, at a, if a lot of times if you ask somebody if they're Christian, they'll say, well, my dad was, or where my uncle was, or something like that. And so they're affiliated. They know they're supposed to, but they're not doing it or whatever. So when you ask about the pizza, say, does that keep you fed today? And then be like, well, the word of God that you read and the word of God that you've heard in passing, you can't rely on. You got a little piece of it. I said, but did you read today? And they'll be like, no. Everybody, 99.9% of honest people, did you read the Bible today? They're going to be like, no, I did not. And then just say, hey, you're starving. You don't realize that you're spiritually starving. And these things are, I say the Bible speaks about the unseen realm. It's something about reading the Bible feeds you in that unseen. I say, how your Bluetooth to your, you got your cell phone, then you can Bluetooth to your TV or your car, and then like electricity, like we don't see none of that stuff. So that's part of the unseen realm, but that's a very small part of it. And just like you got to charge up your phone, you got to charge up yourself with reading that Bible, and then you'll find all kinds of other stuff like right from wrong. You know what I mean? And there's like you can choose your side. You got Jesus over here and Bible and do right, and over here you got the devil and sin and all this kind of stuff, and there's like a fence in between. But the devil owns a fence, so if you're like hopping back and forth or you're just straddling, the devil owns a fence. You're on this side. You know what I mean? You got to be all the way over here. And, if you hear, woe is me, China's going to get us, tariffs, freaking power out, grid down, dogs bite, snakes slither, we ain't got no food, everything costs too much, and you didn't get no Jesus, Where are you going to be by the end of the day? You're going to be pulling your hair out, stressed out, freaking out, and everything else like that. Now you come home to your spouse and kids, and you're putting off a vibe in the unseen of anxiety and angst and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So, turn that frown upside down, get into the Word, find you. When I first thought about this is the ultimate bonus. This is the best bonus I've give. Uh, Top five of all time. When they said something about when everybody had this, the pandemic stuff. If there's a collapse, blah blah, this that, what are you gonna do? I bought PA equipment, a podium, and a bunch of Baptist hymnals. Everybody went out and bought AR-15s. I went out and bought every Baptist hymnal I could find. I got a whole stack of them. I got probably, I can't tell you how many, because I don't even know, dozens, if not hundreds, of Baptist hymnals. Because I was like, after the apocalypse sets in, because I already know I'm gonna live through it, because that's what I do. I live through all the BS. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I shoot myself in the head, I'll be walking around with a hole in my head the rest of my life trying to explain it. Well, whatever. Well, I was having a bad day. Anyways, yeah, look right through there. You see, plumb through it. Imagine that. What a witness, huh? Like, God saved me, and then just put a flashlight right here to shine the light on the wall. Just use that as the laser pointer. What a witness! What a witness! Shine the light through the hole in your head where God wouldn't let you die, but you're dumb enough to kill yourself. That would be something. Anyway, wow, that got off track. So the hymnals, singing the songs. If you're not speaking to each other in spiritual songs and hymns, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing yourself a disservice. And you can hum. Like my wife does this thing. She'll be just piddling around the house, and she'll have this little humming sound to her. And oh my God, it just it's just like, it's the most beautiful thing ever. Like if you just took a pan of cornbread out, I just